everybody. Good afternoon, and thanks for coming. I really appreciate you taking your time. And today is a little pilot that I'm doing. I want to prove that in 1 hour, just 1 hour, you're going to walk out of this room in an hour from now, and your mind will be blown away. And your mind will not be what it was when you first came here. And you're going to see the world and the challenges that the U.S. healthcare system faces. Because I think everybody can do better. The U.S. healthcare system can do better, the state can do better, the city can do better, but also we can do better as individuals. So first of all, I just want to make sure that you fill out the first page. And also we have a little pre-test. I just want to get an idea of how much you know. So let's go through the questions really quickly. It says, oh, I like the one that says, answer true or false. I will do anything in my power to protect my children from early death, diabetes, and cancer. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes? Everybody's going to say yes?
Yes.
Mark you. Great. I'm gonna come back and get you for it.
No.
So now we're going to say the following. If you don't have diabetes, which of the following blood glucose levels is considered too high? 65, no cheating, 99, 103, 130, or C and D?
C and D.
Ah, shish! Sip. Sip, 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 sip. Which of the following is the good cholesterol? Total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, HDL, triglycerides, or glucose? Don't say anything. Which of the following best predicts your overall health? Is it your blood pressure, your bad cholesterol, your fasting glucose, your after meal glucose, or your waist size? Next question. The metabolic syndrome is a genetic condition, contagious in large groups, it can never be cured, is a cluster of risk factors, and doesn't affect the unborn child. And the last question before we get started is, when we overeat, fat deposits keep us warm. That'll be good in this winter we had. Liposuction can remove part of the harmful fat. Excess calories get stored in our liver. Our children will learn to eat healthy on their own. And when we overeat, as long as we exercise, it's okay. No answers, anybody. So, the clicker.
We do not have a clicker.
We do not have a clicker, so how do I go?
You just hit the arrow buttons.
Arrow. Okay, so you're gonna learn your risk in under 1 hour. Is it possible? Without blood tests, without having to make an appointment, co-pays? Yes, it is. Not only that, but you're gonna find out the risk factor for yourself, your family, your neighbors. When you walk out, you'll be able to look at people and be like, oh. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, 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 good, good, good. Trust me. Okay? Why am I here? The reason I'm here is because I've been a physician for over 25 years. And about 3 years ago, it was my turn to be a patient. I didn't like being a patient. Not only because I was ill and I was scared, but I started noticing that a lot of things that patients used to tell me about doctors all of a sudden seemed true. Patients used to tell me all the time, doctors, you go to the doctors, you know what? They just don't listen. You know what? They don't care. They just don't get it. And what's the point? They're not going to change. And when I encountered a couple of colleagues that treated me like dirt, that didn't take me seriously, I guess because I had unusual symptoms and I had an accent, even though I speak English and they knew I was a doctor and I have PPO, they treated me like crap, including a cardiologist who never took my blood pressure, and when I looked at the record, he had faked the blood pressure and written it in the chart. So I know what's going on out there, really bad. And that's with somebody who's educated, assertive, and aware. But I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Doctors, so it's normal for you after you meet 1 or 2 doctors like that, right? That you say, all doctors don't care, they don't listen, they don't get it, they won't change. So what do you think happens to a doctor like me, who's a family doctor, who practices in Newark, mostly with Latino and black patients, after they see 4 or 5, 6 patients who just had a heart attack, who come in stinking of cigarette, who don't take their medication, who don't exercise, who don't lose weight? What is the normal reaction for a doctor? To think they don't listen. They don't care. They just don't get it. And what's the point of telling them, because they're not going to change? That's what doctors say of us, because I'm Puerto Rican, of us, okay? And there's a little bit of truth in both, but there's a lot that's not true. Because I do care, I do listen, I do get it, and I'm here to make a change. And because I know that a lot of you are at high risk, is that I'm here so that when your doctor tells you, it's okay, no, what do you mean it's okay? That's not the number I should have. All of a sudden, the doctor says, wait a minute, I'm dealing here with somebody who's educated. When I bought my house is from 1927. I went to a workshop on how to fix houses. I still don't fix it, but I know the names. I know how to say flue. I know how to say soffit. So when somebody comes in, I throw a couple of words and they say, wait a minute, how much does she know? The same thing with you. When you leave today, you will have the knowledge and the information. So when your doctor tells you, it's a little high, but it's okay, you're going to say, wait, doctor. No, it's not okay. And I know what's at stake here. I want to get better. Let's work on it together. Okay, so that's why I'm here, because I know that the crisis, what's ahead of us, it's already here. On top of that, we have the mistrust and the poor communication. It is a recipe for disaster. So much waste, 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 waste. We talk about access to care, but it's more than that, as you'll see. So in 1 hour, you're going to understand your level of risk for heart disease, for early death, for diabetes, for dementia, and for certain cancers, believe it or not. You're going to gain the knowledge to partner with your provider. It's the days of the doctor being here telling you what to do and you go. It's over. This is a partnership. You got to tell me what you could do. It's no good for me to tell you you're going to climb the stairs. I can't do that because it's not safe. You need to partner with your physician, with your provider, to see how you're going to get to better health. And you're going to have a deeper understanding of your personal responsibility. Because we're used to saying, how many of you have a relative with diabetes who can't get services? Right? Who can't get their medications? Well, it's going to get worse. When it's your turn and your children's turn, forget it. Because it's too much for the system. Way too much. And you're going to set up one goal to slow down your meter. I'm going to talk about that. So risk. People talk about risk, right? I heard there were 100 people here when Ebola lecture was. So there is estimated risk. There's a ton of calculators on the internet. Framingham risk score, this risk score for black people, for da-da-da. Risk of major cardiovascular disease, more than 10%, less than 7%. If you have more than 10%, you give this, you give that. It's an estimated risk. Then the worst, perceived risk. What is your perceived risk? Obviously, the people who came to the Ebola talk, they perceived that they were at risk. I always like the story when anthrax came around. My office was full of patients. I think I have anthrax. I think I have anthrax. The chances were slim to none. So I said, no, but since you're here, I'm going to tell you what your actual risk is. You do have diabetes. You have hypertension. You're overweight. Let's deal with your actual risk. No, doctora, no. I think I have anthrax. Because it's sort of like mysterious. And you're a victim. They come and they get you. The terrorists and anthrax and Ebola. Oh, what can I do? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do something about what's going to kill us? Well, we can. And you're going to find out today. So there are, for example, this picture. I love this picture. It's a real, I call it the Lipids tower. This is a patient of mine who the estimated risk said that she was at high risk to have a heart attack and that she should have a statin. But we know that Latinos, they don't like statins, right? Liver and this and that. So her estimated risk for a heart attack was high. Her perceived risk was that the risk of the medication was much higher. She perceived the risk of the medication higher than it was, and her risk of a heart attack lower than it actually was. Because if she knew what her risk was, the risk-benefit ratio, she would have taken the medication. And what happened here? She went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for 5 months. She went to the doctor. She got her medication refilled. So access to care is not an issue here. She went to the doctor. She got her labs. She got the prescription. She went to the pharmacy. She filled them. She never took them. You know how much that cost? And like that, there's hundreds of thousands of people like that. So perceived risk, estimated risk. Actual risk, she had a heart attack. She did have the heart attack. So she perceived the risk to be less, and the medication that could have saved her exaggerated the possible adverse events. So risk factors are conditions that can increase or decrease your chances of having an outcome. There's some risk factors that you cannot change, like your gender, right? Males, they have coronary artery disease earlier. Women after they go through menopause. Race, we know that African Americans have horrific hypertension. This is very, very, very young, very difficult to control. Latinos also have a higher chance of diabetes. So gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, family history. And I want to talk a little bit about family history. Family history is not only your mother or your father had diabetes. It is, did your mother have gestational diabetes while you were pregnant? While she was pregnant with you? Because that directly influences your metabolism for the rest of your life. Actually, they say the grandmother. The grandmother had gestational diabetes. She set the meter on the daughter is already set when she's pregnant. So this is a part of family history we can change. You cannot change the family history that you came to the world with, but you can change the family history your child will have. If you choose to be healthy before you start your pregnancy, and your kid will not say, my mother had diabetes when she had me. Mothers with diabetes and obesity have low birth weight, preterm infants, and African American women and African American children are at a dismal disadvantage when it comes to that. It is really, if you see the statistics, it's like impossible. Things like breastfeeding, introduction of food after 4 months, things that we can change to improve our family history. And there's others that we just identify and manage, like hypertension. People are like, I don't feel anything. I need to control it on my own. Not going to happen. You need to identify what your risk factors are. So I love this picture. This on the left is a street art in London. It's a mother grabbing the baby, protecting her or him from the world. And the one on the right, I don't have a pointer. The one on the right, if you see a circle that has 2 and 1, that is the umbilical cord. That's actually my daughter. I found this picture the other day. It's an ultrasound picture. 2 and 1. What happens here? The umbilical cord has 2 arteries going to the baby and 1 vein coming back. What does that mean? That if the mother is diabetic, if the mother has insulin resistance, if the mother eats fried food, twice as much is going into the baby, and the baby is processing double whatever you have. If you have a high insulin levels, the baby has high insulin levels and will be born predisposed to diabetes because we have that connection. So this is where my focus is on what can we do to make the next generation healthier. So risk, there's many ways of looking at risk, right? What is every woman afraid of? Breast cancer. So the one on the right is my risk of dying of Ebola, or my risk of dying of prostate cancer, 0, right? Or my risk of being killed by a shark at the bottom of the ocean because I don't like to go scuba diving, so it's not going to happen, right? Not so for men, breast cancer, because it does happen. So on the right, 0. At the bottom is the famous breast cancer risk, 1 in 9. That's what 1 in 9 looks like. 1 in 9. Does anybody know what this is?
Diabetes.
diabetes. That's 1 in 2. For women born in the year 2000 and the year 1990, and for Latinas, 1980, those women who were born 1980, 1990, and 2000 have 52% chance, lifetime risk of diabetes.
What is that?
52%, we'll get to that. 52%, because the mother had hypertension, the whole channel, right? And African American women have 49, so almost 50-50, but we're ahead. But by several generations. So that means that those girls who are now 15, 25, 35, are more likely to get diabetes than not. So for those of you who are caring for these girls and for these boys, every time you make a decision, are you gonna push them to the diabetes side, or are you gonna pull them away from diabetes? It's a struggle, and you need to know that every decision that you make, every fast food stop, every TV that you buy, every game is a push towards diabetes. 1 in 2 people. I don't want to hear I'm afraid of breast cancer. Fine, but this is where the money's at. So I had a hard time figuring out, is there just one condition that grabs it all, that if I have that, I will have all these other things? Yes, there is. It's called metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of risk factors that when they happen together, they greatly worsen each other. I always say, you know, if you have somebody who's not too smart, but he's hardworking, and he keeps to himself, and he's a gentleman, okay. But somebody who's not too smart, but then he's lazy, and then he's rude, and he has bad hygiene, really, you know? What? It's like one thing on top of the other. This is what metabolic syndrome is. One bad thing on top of another, and each one augments the other. And it all starts from obesity. So people with metabolic syndrome have higher rates of cancer, anywhere from 20 to 70% of higher rates of cancer. 20% esophageal, stomach. When we get to liver cancer, 70%, especially our boys, Latino boys. And we'll get to that, 70%. Another one, breast cancer, postmenopausal breast cancer, intimately related to metabolic syndrome. Another thing is diabetes, 5 times, 500% the risk of diabetes with metabolic syndrome. And if you have metabolic syndrome with diabetes, worstest of all. Dementia. They're calling now dementia should be diabetes type 3. Why? Why? The brain is highly vascular, right? So what happens when you have a bad cardiovascular system? You lose your toe, you lose your this, same thing. All that bad stuff that's going through your system is going through your brain is going to cause dementia. Fatty liver. How many people do we know with fatty liver? We used to just say, fatty liver bye, because people would not lose the amount of weight that we need to revert that. Fatty liver is now the fastest growing cause of liver transplant. 50% of obese boys, Latino boys, are said to have fatty liver. 50%. 50%. And these kids will develop, many will develop cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Completely avoidable. PCOS, women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and ovulatory facial hair, also related to that. And one that I couldn't find at the last minute, acanthosis nigricans. You know those people who have that dark line in the back? Insulin resistance, also related to metabolic syndrome. So obviously, knowing if you have metabolic syndrome would seem like a good idea, right? And especially knowing what you can do about it. So I'd like to bring you now to your house. You know the electricity meter that goes around and around, and the guy comes from PSE&G and sees, do you want to go fast and pay a little bill, or you want it to go slow and not pay that much? Slow, right? Because you don't want a big bill. So what if I told you that you and you and you, everybody has a meter? It's called a metabolic meter, let's say. And it starts running, we used to say at the moment you're born, but now we know it starts running before you're born. based on the actions of your mother. It already speeds up. There are kids who come to this world already at a disadvantage. Many of our minority kids are born, come to this world with one strike. Now, if you have an obese mother who has metabolic syndrome or diabetes, 2 strikes, right? They're already born, and then we say like, oh, they're really being born at a disadvantage. So if I tell you that I have a meter, and the meter, the faster it runs, the quicker you're gonna die, or the quicker you're gonna lose your foot, or the quicker you're gonna get impotent, or the quicker you're gonna get diabetes. Would you like your meter to go fast or slow? Slow. So we're gonna need to find out what things speed up our meter, and what things slow down your meter. So when you go feed your kids, or yourself, or you go food shopping, I want you to keep in mind that statistic, over 50%. So that meter is already spinning very fast. You're gonna have to have an anchor to pull it back, like a magnet. You know, people put magnets in the thing to play tricks on the meter, okay? So we're gonna talk about the metabolic meter. So I have this tool that has 3 different representations. The one on the left is the electronic metabolic meter. You plug in your values. It has LDL, which is not included, but I'll explain later why. And if you get 3 out of 5, you have metabolic syndrome, it'll spin really fast and red. So you know, you're aware that you have metabolic syndrome. Then we have the pentagon. I want you to draw that, each one of you, in your drawing. A little house, doesn't have to be like that. Remember the little sailboat that we used to draw when we were kids? A triangle, 2 little things with a boat, cut it in the middle, and then 2 at the sides. Okay, do it again and again and again and again until it's like, because you're gonna go to your doctor with this information, okay? So when you think about it, let's think about a story, right? We're gonna start on the left, the waist, right? So think about, you get up in the morning, put on your belt, right? Then we're gonna go counterclockwise. Put a smile on your face, right? It's a good day, you put a smile on your face. Then you sit under a tree. Well, it's a good thing to sit under a tree, right? Then that symbol is always supposed to be a G for glucose. You could put God, you could say life is good. Then on there is P for pressure, you're gonna be positive. So waist, right? You put your waist, you put a face, happy face, sit under a tree, think that life is good, and then you're positive. That's all around. Then the third one is my metabolic tape. My metabolic tape has all the values that you need in this tape. So when your doctor says, it's more or less, you're gonna go, no, it's not. It's in the red, okay? And this tape on one side has for you to measure the waist, and for the other side has a cheat sheet where it tells you what the goals are for each one of them. So I'm gonna be referring to this as we go along. So let's start with the waist. I love this song that says it's all about the, what is it? Base. But it's all about the waist. I should find out if I can pay them for that. It's all about the waist. Everything starts on the waist size. Why? Why? Because the fat that accumulates around your waist, it's an organ. It's an endocrine organ. Right? We know the ovaries secrete hormones, the pancreas secrete hormones. Well, this fat, the one that's here, secretes hormones, secretes chemicals that make blood be sticky. It promotes what's called atherogenic dyslipidemia. What does it mean? Lipids in a combination that promote clots and atherosclerosis. The worst combination, it's there. It also promotes insulin resistance. And I think that we need to spend a little time on what insulin resistance is. Insulin is only secreted in the pancreas. And there's only, you're born, it's like the women's ovaries. You're born with a number of cells that secrete insulin, and that's it. No more, no less. You can't multiply them, you can't create them, that's it. So what happens is that you have glucose, insulin. The pancreas says glucose, secretes insulin. Glucose, glucose, a lot of glucose. Oh my God, so much glucose. This person is really eating a lot. Doesn't have to be glucose. It could be anything that is transported, and transformed to glucose, right? So what happens is like, oh, a lot of glucose, more insulin, more insulin, more insulin, more insulin. So what's happening with the pancreas is secreting so much insulin. It's overusing, right? So what happens that the person keeps eating, and then insulin can't keep up anymore. So then you have glucose goes up, insulin is up, but it can't keep up. Not only that, but the insulin that was such a good friend with every cell in the body, and said, this is insulin, I bring you glucose, come on in. When this happens with this central adiposity, now insulin goes, hello, who's there? Insulin. Insulin who? I'm not going to open the door for you. So what happens is that you have a lot of insulin, but it's not working. The body is resistant to it. So you have a lot of useless insulin that's being secreted, is draining the pancreas, and by the time that you get to diabetes, to that threshold, half of your pancreas is gone. Half. That's why a lot of your grandmothers, when they come to me and they say like, hey, one more pill, doctor, please. No, you need insulin. No, I swear to God, there's no more insulin. People have to understand that. You're wasting it. The more carbs, the more you challenge your pancreas to produce insulin, the sooner it's going to run out. And we're seeing now 10 to 19-year-old Black and Latino kids surge in type 2 diabetes. It's about 14 years less of life. Okay? So what happens is you have the waste, and then all stuff that goes there, the cheese, the fat, the carbs, everything gets filtered, right, through the liver, and the liver stores it as fat. When you have 5% of the liver replaced by fat, you have fatty liver. This is the waste. Top left corner, remember. So what is the healthy waste? Anybody tell me for a woman? 25. No. Under 35, right? You see the woman on the left? So 35 and above, check. Is not healthy. Counts as one risk factor for metabolic syndrome. For men, is what? 40 and above. So red means what's not healthy. So the man can go up to 39.9 inches. Once he hits 40, he has one of the 5 metabolic risks, metabolic syndrome. So check in your little rectangle, put your number. Put your number. If you're a woman, is it above 35? You put a plus. If you're a man over 40, you put a plus. Lipids, right? We all love to get our lipids taken. The one on the right, clear. This is actually a picture of my practice. The one on the left is somebody who has extremely, imagine what that blood vessels must feel like with that stuff running. Your brain, your kidneys with that slush running. So when you have your labs, you have different types of lipoproteins. You have HDL, LDL, triglycerides, and total cholesterol. HDL is the happy cholesterol, healthy cholesterol. So we want it high, high, right? Why is HDL cholesterol the happy, the good cholesterol? Because it picks up cholesterol from the arteries and takes it away. So we would want somebody like that, right? It's like the garbage man. Picks up the cholesterol and takes it away. HDL cholesterol is the only thing that we want high, okay? Left, that is just a burger that has been cooked and just let to rest. That is actual fat. Look at the fat in the system, right? So HDL for men is healthy is 40 and above. For women, 50 and above. So if you're a man and you have your labs, I have mine, and your HDL is not high but it's low, then you put another check mark there, right? HDL. My HDL is 64. When HDL is over 60, it is considered to be protective. So I could have a risk factor and this one cancels it, okay? HDL. Now triglycerides. Basically triglycerides are the way in which fats are transported in the bloodstream. So no matter what you eat, they get to the liver and they form triglycerides. You see that big salami there? Look at the liver. You see how it looks like it? That's what your liver looks like, with these big chunks of fat. Now look at this person. This is an MRI. You see they have fat around under the skin, but most of the fat is around the organs. So there's no liposuction that can take that out, because the fat that gets when you have that big thing here, that is around your liver, around your vessels, around your pancreas, around your heart, inside your pancreas, inside your liver. You can't get that out. And it's doing a lot of damage while it's at it. Triglycerides levels are the same for everybody, 150 or less. My triglycerides, 124. Don't need to brag, but just because I brought it. Actually, I'm a big concern because they were under 100 the last time. Glucose. Let's spend a little time on glucose. So all these things that we've talked about speed your meter, right? Glucose, HDL, low HDL, high triglycerides. Then, before we go into glucose, HDL and triglycerides are like a seesaw. When the HDL goes up, the triglycerides go down. When the triglycerides go up, the HDL goes down, okay? And that nasty combination of a high triglyceride and a low HDL is typical of people who are going to get diabetes. Typical. And I must say that when a woman gets pregnant, that is the kind of dyslipidemia that happens. So pregnancy in itself is a very atherogenic process. When a woman gets pregnant, blood pressure goes up, sugar goes up, triglycerides go up, HDL goes down. So if you enter pregnancy already with that metabolic derangement, it's just gonna get worse. That's why we have it. I think the United States, I think it's like infant mortality is still like number 20 in the world. It's pathetic, okay? But I think it's all, not all, but a lot of it has to do with this. So remember, HDL, triglycerides, they go up and down with each other. So glucose, a lot of emphasis on glucose. There are 21 million adults with diabetes in the US. A third of them do not know they have it. Now, the big push now is prediabetes. And I was shocked to find out that New Jersey is one of 4 states that does not track prediabetes. I don't know why. Actually, I was looking at the data, and they say, diagnosed with diabetes, yes. On the other column is no diagnosis of diabetes or diabetes only in pregnancy, which is an epidemiological snafu. Because if you did have diabetes in the pregnancy, that is not, should not count as no. Because women who have gestational diabetes tend to progress to diabetes in a matter of 5 to 7 years. And a lot of women who have had diabetes in their pregnancies have not had a doctor tell them that. Because you know what? They don't care. They don't understand. They won't do anything. Right? So we have to show that if we do know, we will care and we will change our behaviors. That's what I'm here to show. So what are the numbers? Prediabetes, 83 million pre-diabetics. 80 million don't know it. 80 million. So when you think about Medicaid, a year, a Medicaid patient is $4,000 on average. A patient that has Medicaid who has diabetes, you know how much it costs? $14,000. $14,000 versus $4,000. And all of a sudden, like it's so rampant that we take it for granted. Ay, pero mi abuela, my grandmother, she wants her strips and she wants her home health and she wants her special food. We can't keep up. We can't keep up. And we won't be able to keep up when it's our turn and our children's turn. So, I'm going to go back. So fasting glucose, remember this, can never be 3 digits. Fasting glucose can never be 3 digits. So what is the highest normal fasting glucose you could have?
99.
99, okay, 99. And me, when I had a Latino or an African American patient with 90 and above, I started getting nervous. Especially if they have high triglycerides, low HDL, right? So then we have 99 and under, healthy, 100 to 125 pre-diabetes, 126 and above, diabetes. The same thing holds for after meal, but we're not going to get into that because it's, this is what we're going to focus on. Fasting blood sugar, never 3 numbers. So if you go to your doctor and you see a sugar of 106 and your doctor says, everything's okay, what are you going to say? Oh, good. Very good. Okay? No. Isn't it 100 or less? I was just in a conference this weekend. A whole bunch of endocrinology was like, these people are coming to me like 102 have pre-diabetes. I go like, and they don't? So it's a lot. I had a colleague who told me, why do you want to tell them if they have pre-diabetes? Why, you going to give them metformin? Wait till they're diabetic. A doctor told me that. So I need you to be advocates for yourself, because doctors are very busy. They do care about patients, but it's just, patients are extremely complicated now. Nobody comes just with a cold. And there's forms and there's this. So, do your part. Get informed and hold your doctors to task. Blood pressure. All blood pressure. Do you know that all the patients treated in the US, less than half are controlled? You know how many people go to the hospital with strokes? You know how many people go and don't take their medications because their pressure will go down? Or, I should do it on my own, I don't need chemicals, but then they're using other chemicals, right? So, in blood pressure, there is a little uniqueness in that healthy blood pressure, ideal blood pressure is what? 120 over 80 or less, right? Then, but for metabolic syndrome, and only for metabolic syndrome, the cutoff is 130 over 85, okay? And then at 140 over 90, you do get the diagnosis of hypertension. But you don't have to have hypertension. You don't have to be in the hypertensive range to have metabolic blood pressure that qualifies for metabolic syndrome. Also, I forgot to tell you before with the glucose, even if you never progress to diabetes, having prediabetes predicts earlier death and heart disease. So don't think that prediabetes is pre-nothing. It's already pretty bad. So now what are we going to do? You're going to add it up and see how your meter is running. Is it fast or if it's slow? So let's go over it again. From the top, we have the first one, which is what? The waist. 35 or less for women, 40 or less for men. The second is what? Cholesterol that's happy. Which one is that? H, happy cholesterol, right? 40 and above for men. Men are easy, as usual. 40. So just remember 40. 40 waist, 40 HDL. Okay? 40 and under for the waist, 40 and above for HDL. Women, 35 for the waist, 50 for the HDL. The third one is T3, triglycerides. Okay? 150 or more, check for yes. And glucose before eating, how much? 99. Okay, everybody gets an A. 99 or less. And pressure? 130 over 85. So having 3, any 3 out of these 5 qualifies for metabolic syndrome. In Europe, they require that you have a big waist. In the US, no. So in the US, if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, and lipids, they say you have metabolic syndrome. In Europe, the definition requires that you have a big waist because it reflects the insulin resistance situation. So now you know it. If you have metabolic syndrome, you have 20 to 70% increased chance of cancer, 500% chance of diabetes, double the risk of adverse event in all cardiovascular endpoints. Cardiovascular mortality, total mortality, stroke, fatal and non-fatal heart attack. You have fatty liver, can give you cirrhosis, can give you hepatocellular carcinoma if you don't get on time to get a liver transplant. So how important it is that we know if we have metabolic syndrome or not.
Very important.
It's really important. How important it is to know if our family has metabolic syndrome, our children. One of the beauties is that metabolic syndrome is a cluster of things that happen together. And it happens in clusters of people, in black people, in Latinos, in American Indian, in poor people, in low education. So just by you being here at the college level and above, you're pushing away from diabetes. Okay? Interestingly, black people, even if they get wealthier, they're not thinner than the not so wealthy. I don't understand, but it's very interesting. Okay? So when you go out now in the world and you see people with big waists, you're going to see that spinning, right? The meter spinning. And let's think about women who you tell them, I'm going to give you some estrogen. Ay, no, doctora, estrogen. That causes cancer. Guess what? You have an estrogen distillery. Fat produces estrogen. That's why obese women have higher rates of breast cancer. Okay? That's why men who are obese have breasts. Okay? And have low levels of testosterone. So if you don't want an estrogen distillery following you everywhere you go, lose the fat. And it has to be consistent. People ask me, la dieta del, the diet off. I said, no good. Well, you haven't heard me. No good. Because if the diet off one thing, it has to be consistent changes that you can pass on to your family and they're sustainable. One thing that I didn't mention is television and inactivity, of course, tobacco inactivity. I think this might be a bit provocative, but this may be the place to say it. African American children have the most televisions in the room. 84% of African American children under 19 have a television in the room. 84. Latinos, I believe, is like 71, and Asians and white around 50. Want to hear another one? Half have premium channels in the room. Premium channels in the room. Latinos, not so much. So I think that we have to re-examine our culture and where we're putting our resources. I know safety is an issue. I know that, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I couldn't sleep at night if I knew that I can do something to save my kid from early death. And I'm not doing it. Yes?
The smartphones have the internet and the Netflix on it, so
So no, you said give me your
it's the
phone.
same thing.
Parents have forgotten that they're the parents. Give me your phone. Give me your phone. You want to do something with your kid? Take the TV out of the room. No, not that. Take the TV. I thought you said there, right, that you'll do anything. There is a post-test. If you could fill that out for me and write down A, did you learn anything today? What is that you learned? B, is this something that you're going to discuss with your doctor after having this information? Is this something that has elicited some curiosity for you to go and complete your pentagram? And C, are you ready to make one commitment to slow down your meter? Write it down. The one thing I'm going to do to slow down my meter is blank. And just write it down. One last story. I had a patient who told me he was obese, she needed to lose weight. I said, you know, most people who are obese, they don't have breakfast. I know, doctor, I do have breakfast. I said, yeah, what do you have? I have pancakes, waffles, eggs, I have sausage, I have hash brown. I said, okay, so one day you have this. You're like, no, every day, everything. A good breakfast. I'm like, okay. So tell them, first of all, find out what your metabolic profile is. Find out, you know, if you're okay from your heart and what kind of physical activity you could start doing. Everybody can walk. Unless you had the other day I went to my cardiologist, I went up 4 flights of stairs and I walked in, I was like, unless you had a heart attack, everybody here should have walked up the stairs. I was in Denver. I couldn't exercise. I went up 8 flights of stairs. Like, why am I so winded? Denver. But you have to look for opportunities. If you're going to the 2nd floor, just, the same way that you look for ways to be lazy, now you're going to be looking for ways to, do the opposite. Remember the pendulum. Remember the pendulum. Remember, I have let me just move quickly. I'll show you what main complications of hypertension, we know. How's your metabolic meter running? It's your meter. It's your life. Take control. It's in your hands. It's not in the hands of the government. It's not in the hands of the doctor. It's not in the hands of the pharmaceutical. It's in your hands. If you don't want to take pills, because the pills are bad, exercise. Lose weight. What are you going to do? Complete the post-test. Shrink that waist. Evaluation. Can you commit to one change? I want to see it in writing. These are things you could do. Learn. Family meeting, family dinners. Did you know that having dinners as a family is protective from metabolic syndrome and diabetes? Guess who has less family dinners? So that one in the middle dancing is my mother. She's 88. Wow. Attitude also. Do we want our kids to look like that? No. Do we want to start our kids toilet training them with an iPad? That's what's happening. We're delegating parenting to technology. And that's what I do. That's the reservation at the Essex the reserve in Orange. Yep. And that is, my lovely husband gave me that. That's just a regular bike. That's less than $100. A regular bike, and you just prop it up there, and it's a bicycle. So if you want, you could tell your kid first hour TV on the bike. There's one thing about genetic. I want to clarify that. Genetic. Some of it is genetic, but remember what we talked about, the mother-child transmission. It's actually the first non-genetic transmission, because it is from mother to child, but it's not because of the genes, it's because of the environment that the mother has created for the baby.
Before Dr. Astrid, let's give her a...
If you want to organize here in Essex County and do something, if you want to, follow up or whatever, so go there and get them. I want you to be assertive and know that it's in your hands. And when you go out there now, you're going to see the world spinning.
If you have any questions,
any other questions?
you can come see Dr. Astrid now.